5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello and welcome to Truth, Beer, and Podsequences. This is the podcast where my co-hosts and I listen to all the Cincinnati-based craft beer podcasts from the previous week, and then we get together here at our podcast host, BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery, and we give our version of how those podcasts went, and hopefully there aren't too many consequences from the hosts of the other shows. It's all good. It's all right. It's all fine. I am Marco, and I'm a brewer here locally and a bartender, and my co-host is
Julia.
I
am a drinker of all of the Cincinnati craft beers. I love them all. I cannot get enough of them. And I, with my Josh, am shopping for a beer fridge.
That's awesome.
So that will be breaking news when we do that. We have a few options picked out.
Yeah,
we kind of know where we're going to put it. And it's just a matter of narrowing it down and deciding what is going to be the perfect starter beer fridge. Because, the goal is to get to Gnome level, to where we have 37 beer fridges.
Different beer fridges for different varieties. Again, shout out to our gracious podcast host, BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery. Get over here. Some of the beers on tap have switched over, and so you need to get out here and try that deliciousness. The weather is great.
But it has
the
not.
doors are open.
It has not. I'm sure it's a fresh keg, but it has not changed on their tap list. That I will definitely be getting next.
Rally Cap on slow pour.
Rally Cap on slow pour. My God, that beer is phenomenal.
Yeah, I had
absolutely phenomenal. You did. You had one earlier. I stuck with my West Side, Best Side beers.
Well,
but that's okay.
What are you drinking then, Julia? Because no good beer podcast would be a good beer podcast if you weren't having a beer.
This is absolutely true. We're both actually having the same thing, so do you mind if I answer for the both of us?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
All right. We're both drinking West Side Brewing's Amarillo Pale Ale.
Yep.
Guess what style that is?
That's in the pale ale style.
Yes. West Side is awesome at letting you know exactly what you're getting in your glass every time you pick one of their beers. But
that's right.
This is delicious. Before this, I had their Pineapple Common Ale, which is one of their limited variants on their common style, which so good. I love everything that they do.
And thank you to everyone who's new to the show. I truly appreciate the listen. Thank you to everyone who's been with us for some time. Truly appreciate your listenership. Julia, what should they do, or how do they, interact or communicate with us?
If they want to interact and communicate with us, social media. We are at Truth Beer Pod on all of the major social media platforms, or you can watch our episodes on YouTube. If you search for Truth Beer Pod on the YouTube, you can see all of our episodes. The only episodes we don't put up there are our 0.5 calendar episodes, because those are so time specific. We didn't feel like anyone would want to go back 3 months from now to see, hey, what events happened in February. But you can also go to truthbeerpod.com. There's a nice big blue support us link if you wanted to toss us a couple bucks for a pint or two of beer, or to continue to upgrade our equipment and to get better and better at what we're doing. Or if you have any type of longer commentary that won't fit on social media, email us, truthbeerpod@gmail.com. And if you happen to have a complaint about the show, something we need to be doing better at, send those to @RagingHop on Twitter. He didn't let us know that we had any for this week, but we did have a couple last week. So definitely go back to last week's show to hear what a couple people had to say about what we're doing.
And thank you to everybody who is helping us out financially. Truly appreciate that as well. We did recently make a couple of equipment purchases, and we also did do a sponsorship.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate all of that, and please continue to do so.
Yes.
I really appreciate it, and it goes a long way. So thank you.
This is a podcast about podcasts, about
right.
Cincinnati Craft Beer podcasts.
Yep.
Did you happen to listen to any Cincinnati craft beer podcasts in the past week?
Oh yeah, I did.
All right. Did you listen to? Let's see. I have a list here. Shift Beers, episode 79.
Yep.
All right. Did you happen to listen to Brews Guys Happy Hour, episode 4?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
The Brews Travelers Outcast podcast, episode 17.
I was there,
You
but
were
I listened.
there.
I listened as well. Yes.
Just in case you had forgotten anything that you'd discussed.
Tried to
That's
forget
good.
some of it.
Cincy Brewcast, Cinco de Adena.
Yep.
Awesome. So it sounds like we are on the same page with podcasts. Which one would you like to start with first?
I would like to start with Brewcast.
It is such a great podcast.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that it has hit a season 2. So the Brewcast Happy Hour podcast is hosted by Michael D. Morgan, who is a local Cincinnati. He thinks he has a law degree. He's not entirely sure.
Right.
He also does some like beer tasting, brewery related classes at UC, and he has written several books about the Cincinnati Craft Beer. I was going to say scene, but it's really the history of Cincinnati Craft Beer. And Brett Coleman Baker, who is one of the owners and brewers at Urban Artifact.
Yeah. A couple of smart guys cutting it up, talking beer, to a couple of extremely influential guests.
Figureheads. Figureheads
Absolutely.
of the and what they're talking about is not Cincinnati craft beer history in this season of their show. It is just the history of craft beer as a whole, nationwide, which is absolutely fantastic because they always find a way to pull Cincinnati craft beer history into their shows.
Yep.
And episode 4 is no different. They were able to talk to Dr. Theresa McCulla, who works at the Smithsonian, like the Smithsonian, the American History Museum in Washington.
Right.
She has a BA.
The one that Ben Stiller was a security guard at.
Correct. I wonder if they ever had any run-ins.
She probably wasn't there after dark.
After dark, yeah,
Right.
That's true. That's true. Although that's when beer does its best fermenting is after dark. Did you know that?
Yeah, because I'm not there.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I usually
I just figured as a brewer,
come back the next morning and it's like,
and the
ooh,
magic has happened.
Ooh, it's bubbling.
The magic has happened overnight. So Dr. Theresa McCulla has a BA, an MA, and a PhD from Harvard. I mean, holy shit! Talk about intimidating, like right out of the gate. But she was the most personable interviewee that I've ever heard. She is mainly focused on the 19th and 20th century culinary and drink history in America, and she gets to compile the history of American craft beer.
Yeah, that
It's
started
phenomenal.
in 2017. There was about a 10-year push. Shout out to the former owners of New Belgium Brewing, as I guess they were on the board for this sort of, I don't know if not exploratory, but like a thoughts and opinion type committee.
Right. Kind of a soundboard to see, is this something that we can actually get enough curated material, enough history, enough information on to make the full exhibit, like permanent exhibit. Exhibit makes it sound.
And why would the history of modern American craft beer be something in the Smithsonian? It really stemmed from the fact that food, which led to wine, and that led to beer.
Right. Well, one of the really cool things that Dr. McCulla said was, if you look at any era or event in U.S. history, you can look at it through the lens of beer.
Yeah.
Like what was happening with brewing. Her focus is on home brewing and craft beer from the 1960s through now. So she really got to dig into a lot of the history that you and I got to talk about in episodes 1 and 2. Well, I guess 1 was an introduction.
Right,
Episodes
2 and
3 with Fritz Maytag and Renee, who is the daughter of Jack McCulla.
Jack McCulla from New Albion.
Yeah. So
And Fritz from
Anchor Brewing.
Anchor Brew.
Yep. She did reveal who she feels the true father of American craft beer is, and I don't want to kind of give that away,
Right.
Because it is all of these episodes are phenomenal. So I definitely want people to listen to this one. But she definitely gives her input on who she feels is historically granted that place in American craft beer.
And along, also in talking about their place in American craft beer, they did speak for a few minutes about some of the influential women who were at the very beginning of this craft beer resurgence or revolution back around that time with Jack McAuliffe and Fritz Maytag.
Right. And I did say this when we reviewed or when we covered episodes 2 and 3. I do hope that that Mike and Brett do a full episode, or are able to have a full episode specifically about the women in craft beer history, because Michael especially had a couple of pretty strong feelings about
Yes.
how these women played such an important role, but they were only presented as kind of, the pretty lady standing next to the brewer, when they were involved with and had so much more to do with
So much more.
craft beer and its success in America.
Yeah, and our purpose is not to regurgitate everything that happened in the show. Our purpose is to give you some of the highlights and then hopefully make you think, hey, this is something interesting. I'd like to go and listen to this. Or, hey, did they really say that? We're not taking too many of those liberties right now with Brews Guys, because the content is it's factual. And it's beer history. I mean, there's going to be some of these things where we take some liberties and things like that. But this is two guys who are really serious about their being able to provide to their listenership a fact-based account of whatever whether it be the people or the things that they're talking about. And so, I mean, we'll find a way to put our own spin on some of these things probably in the future as the show progresses. But I really want to express how just truly interesting, if you are a history nut, if you're a craft beer lover, if you're somebody who can see the value in listening to a show that a podcast that puts together both of those, you should be listening to this.
Right. And they also have a lot of fun both in the beginning of the podcast when they're talking about who they're going to be talking to, what the subject matter of the episode's going to be, and the end of the episode, which is probably one of my favorite parts, is when they have a conversation with each other about the interview, about the topic that they just had, the meat of the episode about.
And they did a little bit of a twist on this one.
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
I'm not going to give it away.
No, definitely not. But I will say that two other points that I have written down about this episode before we wrap up the Brew Skies recap. Brett does bring back the Venetian glass blower analogy, which it fits incredibly perfectly, so definitely check that out.
Play the hits.
And what would you do if you were a giant?
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about this, and I should have thought that you were going to ask that question. What would I do if I was a giant? Probably have one of those glass blowers blow me a giant beer mug.
Hell yeah. I like it.
And you, Julia? You asked the question.
I did, so I should probably have an answer. If I were a giant, I would just be happy that I wouldn't have to use the step stool to order my beer here at BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery. They would actually see me coming up to the bar to order my beer.
I feel that answer. All right, everybody, go listen to Bruce Guy's Happy Hour.
Absolutely. We're back. We made it. We made it back. It was treacherous for a little bit there. I wasn't sure if the podcast was going to be able to continue, but you pulled through.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like I said, the weather, I mean, the sun's shining, it's warm, and they have the roll-down doors up. Yeah. And I guess my allergies weren't ready for all that, but I'm good.
For all that action.
I'm good.
All right.
Good.
Well, glad to hear it. Glad you're back.
Well, I appreciate the concern.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to make sure that my favorite co-host of all time is doing all right.
I'm good.
All right.
We're gonna get into it. What's next, Julia?
How about we do the Bruce Travelers Outcast podcast, where they talk about what you talk about with them, Big Timber Brewing in West Virginia, Elkins, West Virginia, to be specific.
Yes.
Yeah. So this may sound familiar to all of our listeners because we've talked about two other different shows, I think.
Something of that nature.
With this. So apologies if some of this sounds redundant, but the Brews Travelers put out their episode from their trip down to West Virginia, where they were able to talk with one of the brewers of Big Timber. And it definitely gave us more information than what we've gotten from some of the other podcasts that came out about it.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
No, so the beginning starts with retelling the story of how I got the Brews Traveler nickname Dangles, which if you follow their Facebook page, you got to see my caricature that was made there. So
that's also the podcast episode artwork. So depending on your podcatcher,
right.
if it shows the individual episode artwork, you'll get it there, which I think that it looks awesome. Both you and the gnome getting your caricatures added.
Turned out turned out cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
So it
Go ahead.
recaps that story.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and we were recapping it while we were sitting at Big Timber.
Right. Now, I will say that the episode was a little hard to listen to just because of the background. Like, you could tell that the place was bustling, that there was a lot of activity going on there, which made it sound, a lot of fun, but it was a little hard to hear everyone individually. So just kind of a disclaimer that if you listen to this, you should listen to this episode.
Right.
When you listen to this episode, not if, but when. Just be aware that there is a bunch of background noise, but it doesn't detract at all from the conversation that's happening. The participants of this episode are the Brews Traveler, Quick Trip, the Gnarly Gnome, Dangles, and then a little later on in the episode, Chris Newsom, who is the lead brewer at Big Timber.
Yep.
So Chris Newsom, the lead brewer at Big Timber, that was kind of an out of the blue happening. Like, you guys had just shown up just to experience the space.
Yeah.
And one of you just happened to ask one of the bartenders.
So before we headed there, Matt had tried to reach out through social.
You said his name.
I did. Hold on, we got a drink. This is perfect. So the Brews Traveler reached out on social media and really didn't hear anything. And then one of the bartenders there, which the place was busy, but if you listen to the shows that have come out about West Virginia, the tap rooms have all been very small that we went to, except for maybe one, which was a little bit bigger. But it was definitely, that tap room started as a small tap room, which grew into a little bit bigger and then a little bit bigger. So this was a smaller tap room. And then we go into the aesthetics of the tap room. But we actually recorded the entire episode without a member of Big Timber there. And as we had pretty much, closed the podcast case, he walked in and was like, "Hey, you guys recording a podcast?" And we're like, "Yeah." So we went and grabbed opened everything back up and, gave him a lapel mic and did his part, and then we went over to the production facility and had a great time.
Just want to say huge shout out to the Brews Traveler or whoever does their editing, because that was seamless. I did not realize that you guys had wrapped up when Chris Newsom showed up. So that was awesome. That was a little behind the scenes
there. We went over there. It was a great time. We had a really fantastic time. I had a good time at Big Timber. I really believe, kind of like I believe it was the Gnome who said that. I mean, that space really feels like one that you could take out of there and drop into the Cincy beer scene, and it would make sense.
Flourish. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. It would make sense. It would fit. What they're doing at the production space is going to be really fantastic. And yeah, they definitely seem to have a vision, and then are following the path to that vision, and I think that's certainly going to pay off for them.
Yeah, Chris talked about how Big Timber is, I believe it said that they are planning a move to a new location. I'm not sure how far along that process is, how much of that new location is built ready, or if it's still just, we know we're doing this, we know where we're going to go to, but we haven't made any physical progress towards it yet. But it was really cool that he did offer to the Brews Traveler, because Brews Traveler has been going to Big Timber for many, many years whenever he takes his trips down to West Virginia.
Yep.
He did say that he would give a special discount to the Brews Traveler if he wanted to buy the current space. So, I mean, there could be a Brews Traveler's bar down in Elkins, West Virginia in a matter of years. So
that would be awesome.
I'm not sure how far those talks are progressing.
I know
that
some people like throw some names his way. Help him get a brewery off the ground.
Yeah, but the plan is not to keep both spaces.
Right.
It's to 100% move out of their current location and into the new, bigger space.
It's the
production-wise. Well, but they're not keeping the space you guys went to as a tap room, it sounded like. Like, he's it's just
smaller,
gonna...
Yeah, the smaller tap room space that we were at and recorded first, that's going to be the space that they're going to move out of.
Right.
And move into the production facility.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
So the production facility is up and running for beer production.
Okay.
The construction and build out for what's going to be the bigger tap room, and the whole experience is going to be at that location.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you were able to clarify that, because from listening to it, my thought was they didn't have the production space or the new taproom space ready. It was the whole thing was still a work in progress.
No,
so,
production space is cranky.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, thank you very much for letting me know about that. Let's see. One of the other notes that I had about this is in the thread of the conversation with Chris Newsom, there are a lot of cider drinkers in West Virginia. Big Timber doesn't make any, but they do make seltzers, which there was an interesting conversation about kind of that crossover with cider drinkers and seltzer drinkers, which actually flows a little bit into a later episode of Cincy Brewcast that we're going to be recapping. And I loved the fact that during the rapid fire questions, I can't remember if it was Quick Trip or Brews Traveler that asked, "Are you dog friendly?" The answer was given by none other than a pupper who was making his presence known in the tap room at the perfect time. So Big Timber is not that it's somewhere super close like one of the Cincinnati breweries, but if you do go down to Elkins, West Virginia, feel free to bring your dog into Big Timber Brewery.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't mean to speak for them, I'm going to say that my thoughts are that since they mentioned what their food option is going to be, which is probably going to be stationed outside of the production facility, that they may end up carrying that over to the new facility, because there's you can eat in there, but there's no food being produced in that
But
space.
are those the same laws in West Virginia as Ohio? Like in Ohio, if you are, as you said, producing food inside, so like, Listerman with Just Frites and a lot of these other breweries that have in-house kitchens, because of that, they can't have dogs unless they're outside in the patio areas. So I'm wondering if West Virginia has those same rules or not. That's, I guess, to be determined.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? Big Timber is a Bengals brewery. They are big Bengals supporters.
Yeah, they did.
There was a bit of a discussion about that. It was
I said they like I wasn't there. We did cover that.
Well, you're speaking as you and I recapping the podcast, so you're like third-personing as we're doing this. But yeah, the question was posed to Chris, are you a Bengals brewery or a Steelers brewery? And he pretty much said, we are 100% a Bengals brewery, fuck the Steelers, and I couldn't agree with him more. Let's see, what else was there? I love the fact that just in the casualness of the conversation with Chris, he's just like, yeah, our production facility's down the street. Yeah, you guys want to go over there? I'll take you over there. Like, just like that had to have been the coolest thing until Quick Trip, who in the Facebook posts, you can see him hugging like the big old stack of cans that they had in there. It was all fun and games until he tried to get that picture, and then as soon as the picture was snapped, knocked the empty beer cans over. So I don't know if he's going to be welcome back at the production facility.
That's right.
It's Chris didn't sound too mad about it, but
no, it's not that.
You
bad.
never know. You never know.
Julie, I was just looking at your mug, your glass mug from BC's Bottle Life.
It's a hell of a gorgeous mug.
It's a beautiful big mug.
It reminds me of a
who would have
peacock.
trouble holding that? Kenny Pickett.
Tiny hands.
Tiny hands Pickett.
I mean, not that I have the biggest hands in the world, but I can still.
Might be bigger than Kenny Pickett's.
My hands might finally be bigger than someone's, other than like babies or something like that. That's
Baby.
little baby hand. Well, no, I'm not going to get political. We'll leave that at the door. Only other notes that I had is the Brews Traveler is getting more, and this didn't have anything to do with Big Timber, but the Brews Traveler is getting to be much more accustomed to spicy foods.
Yeah, he's not. He used to be called. He was Baby Spice.
It sounded like he always will be Baby Spice.
I mean,
but
come on, yeah.
He's not as baby spicy as he used to be, and this is a huge throwback to their live episode that the Hustle and Brews podcast put out that they did at Fretboard Brewing, where they had Hot Sauce for Mortals on. Delicious hot sauce. Definitely check out the Hot Sauce for Mortals Facebook page. And the last note that I had is that Dangles had a big flight which is a flight of nothing but pints of beer instead of little mini ones. So good job.
I'm just saying, if my hands were as small as Kenny Pickett's, I probably would not have been able to hold on to the rope.
I'm glad you did.
I'm glad I did too.
I'm glad you came back to Rachel, to BC's, to the podcast.
Yeah. Maybe one of these days you guys will hear a conversation between my wife and I about that.
Well,
we'll see. Maybe one of these days.
That's all that I had for this episode of the Brews Travelers Outcast podcast. Big Timber sounds like a really cool place to go. I'd like to go down there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It was fun. It was a fun time. They were very hospitable, and it was good. It was great. It was really great. Good. Awesome.
I'm glad you took the trip, and I'm glad we had this episode to talk about.
There we go.
I think your glass looks like it's about empty. My mug is pretty close to being empty, so we're going to take another real quick
We really
break.
drink on this show, y'all.
We actually do.
Look, I mean, we're not like some of these other, beer podcasts that are out there that say they're having a drink and, and they're not.
Yeah. Or the ones that say that they talk about like beer and beer accessories, and you can tell that nothing is actually being drunk on the show. Is it drank or drunk?
It depends.
Depends. Okay, fair enough.
It depends.
But we definitely need to get more beer in our glasses, so we're going to take another real quick break, and we'll come back at you with Cincy Brewcast and Shift Beers.
Okay.
We did it again. We made it through another short break.
And we are back.
That we are. So we both have fresh glasses of wonderful libations. I am drinking Sonder's Rally Cap on slow pour because it is bussin' no cap. I will be sad when it is no longer on the slow pour tap here at BC's by the Lodge of Montgomery. You, however, have something very different from what we normally have on the show.
Yeah, I have a craft cocktail.
Nice.
This is a Fling craft cocktail from Boulevard Brewing Company. This is their margarita.
Nice.
And I got it because we're about to talk about Cincy Brewcast.
Yeah, and Cincy Brewcast, this episode, they talked RTDs, ready-to-drink cocktails, seltzers, hard lemonades, how everything kind of ties together, what actually is it. But I noticed that you don't have any ice in your glass.
Yeah, it's a long story. It's complicated.
Yeah. All right. That's fine. Producer Ben has done an excellent job of making sure that our glasses are pretty full.
Ooh, that's tasty.
Yeah? All right. Nice.
Hell yeah.
Nice. I'm going to act like I've never had Rally Cap on slow pour before and take a drink and let you know how it is.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I'm telling you, this Fling is tasty. Tasty. It's 9%, though. You guys got to be careful out there.
Got to be careful with it, yeah.
Be cautious.
This Rally Cap is just... It's stupid good.
Capping?
It's capping. It's cap. Is that a thing?
I don't know. We just did it.
Bussin' no cap.
Okay.
Hands down.
Sure.
Full stop. Period. End of story. Book closed.
Good stuff.
Very good stuff.
So
it is excellent stuff. So Cincy Brewcast.
Yeah.
Cinco de Adena.
Cinco de Adena.
Which means he had Michael from Adena on the show again. Which I always love hearing Michael when he's on Cincy Brewcast.
I do as well.
I definitely need we need him to stop by on a Tuesday.
We could
sit
invite
down
him
with us. We could.
He'd accept our invitation.
But you see, the fun thing about our show is much like Sam Adams and Utopia's. We expect you to listen to us and then make your action based on what we say on our podcast. We should not have to be proactive on any of this stuff. It should all be retroactive based on your listenership. Who did? Who texted you?
Lee.
Lee is so awesome.
Yeah, he texted me today.
Yeah, Lee often texts me during like the FC Cincinnati games, sometimes for the Liverpool games.
How about those winners?
Lee, I'm telling you, those Reds are kind of kicking ass right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how to process that.
Yeah, the Reds.
Because it's been a whole lot of...
FC? How about FC?
3 games in a row.
How about that?
Bringing home another 3 points. I'm excited. Welcome to Truth, Beer, and Consequences, your Cincinnati sports ball podcast, where we occasionally talk about Cincinnati Craft Beer podcasts like the Cincinnati Brewcast.
The Cincinnati Brewcast.
All right, let's get back into it. Cincy Brewcast with Michael from Adena. Michael, I'll tag you. I'll do something to do a formal invitation for you to sit down and be on our show. Even for a bonus episode, you do not have to listen to any podcast to be on our show. We'll have an awesome conversation with you and talk about any and everything Cincinnati Craft Beer and go from there.
I know he does listen to a few Cincinnati Craft Beer podcasts, though.
So he talked about how they sold, this is pre-COVID, more draft beer in the 2 months prior to the pandemic happening
Right.
than they ever had before.
Yeah, in 2020, just before
Like the big shutdown.
the big shutdown,
Yeah.
they sold a lot of draft beer.
And they were also breaking records with their packaged beer sales as well. So they were crushing it. They expanded. They needed to expand, bring in additional headcount. And it sounds like even with what COVID did to a lot of businesses, Adena managed to come away, for the most part, unscathed. Like the demand for craft beer stayed high enough to where they're still killing it.
He didn't talk too much
No.
about the ups and downs and the changing of everything into what the landscape would look like, how he was going to continue doing what he did, but he did, and they did, and they are at this point, and I think we might talk maybe in another episode a little bit about where we're at right now in the stage of business versus caution versus the pandemic and whatnot. But it was a little bit of talk about that, and then a lot of talk about everything, a little more recent history.
Right. Current events, if you could say. So did they record on Cinco de Mayo? Did Gnome say
Yes.
100% on Cinco de
Yes.
Mayo? They were drinking a couple of Cinco de Mayo themed beers, and the question was raised: should these be limited to? And I don't want to call Cinco de Mayo a season, but like a short-term release for the beginning of summer, and again, all Mexican lagers with lime is typically what you see a huge influx of around Cinco de Mayo. They're limited releases. They are everywhere for the end of April through maybe the second week of May or so, and then they kind of disappear.
I think to each brewery their own, the way they approach that, right?
I'm asking you as far as a personal question, because the question that they talked about.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, not a problem. The question that they asked on in this episode was, should they be limited to just kind of this 2 to 3 week period around Cinco de Mayo, or because they are a very light, crushable, delicious, easy drinking.
No, I get what you mean, Julia. And so if you're asking for my personal preference on, let's say, a light lager or a light beer with lime, ready to go, on tap.
Something light with a little bit of an extra flavor, a little bit of, I don't want to say necessarily say fruitiness. Lime's a fruit, therefore fruity, but...
So I think for the 4 weeks... 2 weeks leading into Cinco de Mayo, and then the week of, and then the week after, it's fine to have something that you're offering that is mixed and ready to go from a beer perspective. I personally would rather take a beer and squeeze my own lime into it, or a lime and an orange, or a lime lemon and orange, or whatever it is that I feel like. And then after that Cinco de Mayo, maybe the week after, you just have, I don't know, half a keg left or whatever it is, or, just get rid of it and let's move on to the option to serve a beer with, say, lime. And the other thing is, too, somebody who says, well, I don't want all of my Cinco de Mayo options to be just light lager with lime. Okay. Well,
True.
the alternative is, you could have a Mexican amber.
Sure.
Which is just a Vienna lager.
Right,
It's
right.
really that's the origin of the style.
Well, or you could do stuff, margaritas. You can do there have been margarita inspired beers and
I've made
seltzers
one.
and sours and all that. Right, exactly.
I made a margarita wheat shandy a couple years in a row.
Nice. Sounds delicious.
It was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It was pretty good.
I guess my thought on it is I love the and I'll just say the Mexican lager with lime style, that lighter beer with that kick of lime, that little bit of that tart, fruity flavor when it's hot outside, when it's warm. So the fact that things like, a fretboard's peso in my hand with lime, and probably one of my favorites, Country Boy, their Lager con Lima. Their lager with lime. It's limited. It is only available, or at least I've only seen it here in Cincinnati, in very limited time frames. I would love to drink that all throughout the summer because, again, they're crushable. They're fresh tasting.
I think disappearing from bars and restaurants and maybe bottle shops, but being able to get it at the brewery for, say, a summer season makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. There was a really good discussion about how to choose an out-of-area brewery, because that's what Adena does. They distribute some local brands.
Yeah.
But they also bring in a lot of out-of-market brands into Cincinnati. I'll say Pipeworks is an excellent example of what Adena's brought into Cincinnati that has stayed. They've had a couple of, I don't want to call them trendy, but kind of hype-worthy beers that they brought into the Cincinnati area. Their Ninja versus Unicorn series.
Right.
Pipeworks has been able to set themselves up in the Cincinnati area as a damn good brewery that makes good beer and not just kind of a one-hit wonder out of their New England IPAs or their pasty stouts,
right,
to use proper terminology there. I really like the discussion that they had about how they have to look into that when they sign an agreement with a brewery before bringing it into the Cincinnati area. Will this last, and not just for these one or two styles that they have that are incredibly hype-worthy, but they don't have anything else to back them up with once those hype beers are gone.
It was a cool part of the conversation, and I'm not going to expand on that. I'm going to let the listeners go, and I'm going to ask you to listen to the podcast. But that was a good section of the discussion that was intriguing to me. What else you got there? What notes? What else notes?
Another
noteworthy?
excellent discussion that they had, which is what we talked about in the beginning of our recap, is the whole what's an RTD, ready to drink, versus a seltzer, versus a hard lemonade, hard tea, et cetera, et cetera. Where is it? Do those all fall under the same umbrella? Are they in their separate categories, such as RTDs, strictly cocktail-based beverages, and not hard tea, hard lemonade, seltzer? Or do they all fall under the exact same umbrella as a non-beer versus beer when it comes to selling? And that was really interesting to listen to the two of them.
It
go back and
was
forth.
also yes. I mean, listen to the whole conversation. Listen to the whole podcast.
Yeah.
It's worth it because
we can't do it justice in just this little recap that we do.
No, because you're talking about the gnarly gnome who does great research and puts on a great podcast, and also it has a great platform with all of the things that he does.
Right.
And then Michael from Adena, who has been distributing beer for a long time, and as an owner of a beer distributorship, a small craft beer distributorship, has a unique perspective on these things. And Michael's not afraid to talk about these things, which is really fantastic because you get his view on these things. So I urge you to go and listen. I'm going to share a small anecdote. And then I don't know if you have any other notes, but if we can.
I have two other things that I just want to touch on real fast before we wrap this up. So go ahead with
Speaking of RTDs, ready to drink, right? So it has been years since I went into the restaurant chain Chili's. Last week, I went into the restaurant chain Chili's to pick up to-go food for the family. It's kind of a thing I do. Let's pick up to-go food.
Did you get their baby back ribs?
No. I did not get the baby
Come
back
on,
ribs.
that commercial will live in my mind.
Oh my God. Was that the 80s
forever.
or 90s?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was 90s.
Sure.
But
Chili's was stuck in the 90s.
they still are.
Well, this one here locally is pulling themselves into the early 2000s. So
nice. Good
shout
for
out to them for
them.
doing a renovation. But part of that renovation is I ordered, because it is legal in Ohio if you are purchasing food, to order 2 to-go drinks.
Yes.
And
thank you, COVID. I will.
Yeah.
That's
So I ordered
Yes.
2 to-go Presidente margaritas.
Hell yeah.
And so back in the day, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s, the bartender would shake them up, and they were served in blue plastic Chili's shakers, and you would pour it into a margarita glass, or if you were hardcore, you just take the top off that and stick a straw right down in it and have at it. So I ordered 2 to-go Presidente margaritas, and part of the upgrade was the bartender went over to a kegerator and pulled a tap handle and poured ready-made
margarita?
RTD
Hell yeah.
from I don't know if it was a box keg, a plastic keg, or an actual, keg, a stainless steel keg.
Yeah.
Poured 2 margaritas. And I said, so those are just pre-mixed, ready to go. She goes, yep. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool.
And when you got home and you drank them, were they just as good as if they would have made them fresh?
So here's the thing, right?
Again, you're taking...
Yes and no.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, they tasted like they tasted like a fine margarita, just as good as this RTD margarita I'm drinking here right now.
From Fling.
Was the experience the same?
No.
No.
No, definitely not.
No.
I get... So would... And here's one of those interesting...
Would it be different if I was eating and drinking there? I don't know. I don't know. Are they still selling
them?
them?
Not even that. Even deeper or even farther to the side than that. If you would not have seen that, if you didn't know that was just a tap on a keg, if you did not know that was a ready to drink,
I would have thought the bartender was mixing
it up. Well, as long as it tastes good, you know what I mean? I feel like as long as the taste, the quality is there.
I don't disagree. However, for those of us old enough to remember the every bartender shaking up your margaritas and putting them in the blue shakers and then having the blue shaker, which is a branding for your business at the table.
Right. Agreed. I agree 100%.
And
all
maybe
that
they
aside,
do. And maybe they do. Maybe they pour it into a shaker when you're eating there.
Sure.
I wasn't eating there, so I don't know.
Sure.
But that's part of the nostalgia for me for Chili's, and I get for efficiency's sake and consistency, by the way, because when bartenders are doing it, you think that an ounce and a half is an ounce and a half, and but when they're free pouring, there's a little bit of difference,
right?
So this is completely consistent. And
everyone's getting the exact same drink.
Yep.
That person sitting over there is not getting a little more alcohol than you versus a little less alcohol.
And faster.
That person over there.
So that bartender doesn't have to, sit there and shake every one of those things. They can just open the tap and pour it, just like the beer.
And this is one of those bigger questions to where it needs a whole bunch of qualifiers, but I'm not going to put qualifiers on them. Blanket statement: are you okay with ready-to-drink cocktails?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, sure.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, imagine this. Imagine if there were 4-packs or 6-packs or 12-packs of Chili's branded Presidente margaritas ready to go in aluminum cans at your local
disposal. Sure.
Local grocery store or bottle shop or whatever.
Yeah.
You think they would sell out? I think.
Hell yeah.
I think during the summertime they would freaking move.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with that. I have no issue with them. I know that Veracruz is a Mexican restaurant near where I live, and they make fucking amazing margaritas. And one of my favorite, this sounds weird, one of my favorite parts about COVID, which has extended past COVID, was being able to order like a freaking 2 pints, like the big soup containers that you would normally get soup in, full of their margaritas, which they were very heavy-handed on the tequila.
Hell yeah.
Being able to pick that up and take it home and just drink however little or much as I wanted because I was at home, so who cares?
You don't really have to worry too much about oxidation there. I mean, you're going to put it away in
it's good.
A couple of days. I mean,
a couple of days.
Well,
you underestimate my alcoholism, sir.
No. No, that's Liam Neeson right
But
there.
no, it's that was an excellent Liam Neeson, by the way.
Thank you.
But no, I mean, I think that the ready-to-drink cocktail versus seltzer versus like the hard beverages, teas, lemonades, that kind of stuff, it was a really, really good conversation that Cincy Brewcast had. I'm glad that Adena Distributing was able to give kind of their insight on from a seller's perspective, not a brewery's perspective, not a drinker's perspective, but from the perspective of they literally have a portal directly to what the consumer wants. It was really cool to see, or not to see, but to listen to that conversation and to kind of be a part of it from an outsider's perspective and hear about what their customers want. The only other 2 points that I had on this episode is I absolutely loved the quote that was said, "Everybody's got a little West Side in them." It's true, because even if you're not from the West Side, the farther east side you go, the more west side you get, or the more west you get, and that's kind of a
If you
little.
take the loop, eventually you end up west.
It's true, but the farther east you go, the more west you get is an excellent tidbit from Caroline.
Right.
Who we didn't have an episode of Craft Parenting Podcast to talk about this week, but still want to shout them out.
It's coming up.
The last thing that I had that I wanted to mention was there was a really, really cool conversation near the end of the episode where Michael said that he felt, and I'm going to read through my notes to try to make sure I get this right, breweries are changing to get the drinkers that they want to have versus trying to change themselves for what the drinkers want. And I say that as far as the breweries that know who they want to come into their tap rooms are either going to add the ready-to-drink cocktails, the seltzers, the non-beer options, as opposed to looking at it through the lens of, or through, the beer goggles, to kind of go all the way back to the Brews guys recap.
Oh, yeah.
Of drinkers want, and I'll use seltzers as the example, drinkers want seltzers, so we're going to make a seltzer. Michael didn't feel that it's so much of that as it is the opposite. You'll have a brewery that says, you know what, we want drinkers that want beer and craft cocktails, not so much seltzer, so we're going to offer beer and craft cocktails and not seltzers. I hope that makes sense. It was a really cool insight, and I don't know how to properly rephrase it in my own words, so definitely
it's okay. They need to go and listen.
100%. You definitely need to. So we love Adena. We love Michael.
We do.
We love the Gnome and Cincy Brewcast.
Yep.
And it's always awesome to hear the amazing conversations that the Gnarly Gnome has with all of his guests. So this was a great episode
glad Cincy Brewcast put out an episode last week, and there's going to be an episode this coming week.
Which should be talking about expansions.
That's right.
Which will be really cool to hear. And kind of a little bit of self-promo. Definitely check out his Instagram feed, because he mentioned Truth Beer Pod on, as it stands as of now, as of, 7:15 at night on Tuesday, May the 10th. He let people know that Truth Beer Pod is sponsoring this week's episode, or I guess this coming week's episode.
Yeah, we're sponsoring this coming week's episode.
And that is all thanks to all of you who have monetarily donated to us. We were able to use some of those funds to upgrade our equipment, as Marco said in the beginning of the episode, but we were also able to use some of those funds to help support the Gnarly Gnome. So, hell yeah! Even the fire department is cheering us on.
Cheering us on. So, and thank you again to everyone who supports us monetarily. Yes, we not only talk about the shows that are local here, but we also support the shows in many different ways. And it's no secret that Cincy Brewcast has a huge listenership and following, and we wanted to hopefully do a couple of things at once, which is support the Gnarly Gnome and Cincy Brewcast by sponsorship, but also hopefully open the show up to listeners who don't really know about our show. that does really well, and at some point in the future we can do something like that or similar with the same show or others.
Right, and to kind of continue to toot our own horns in a little bit, producer Ben here at BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery did mention that the way that he is made most aware of some of the Cincinnati beer events that are happening is through our 0.5 episodes, which are typically under 5-minute episodes. Sometimes they go a little bit over depending on the amount of things we have to talk about. But if you don't listen to our 0.5 episodes, they are super fast shows where we just let you know about what beer events are happening in the greater Cincinnati area. And some people don't have time to try to follow every single brewery on Facebook, every single bottle shop. Even if they do, there's still a chance that they might miss something. I'm sure that we've missed events in the past.
Yeah, and not only that, if they could get it in an audio version.
Exactly, that they can just listen to and go, oh, that sounds interesting. Let me check on the date for that. The people that support us are the same people that need to support these other podcasts because, again, without them, we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have anything to talk about because they wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Yeah, we'd have to pick something totally different.
Yeah.
We'd have to do it like
our favorite trees.
Hey, let's take a break, Julia, and then we'll get back to it.
But definitely check out Cincy Brewcast. Check out this episode with Adena Brewing. Almost, I will say,
distributing.
Oh my God, why do I keep doing that?
I don't know.
I'll just say it's because I've had beers. So Adena, when are you opening your brewery? Because apparently that is the direction that I am taking your business, and that is my truth.
Yeah.
Michael, definitely come on the show any Tuesday here at BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery to set me straight. But yeah, let's take we are going to take a real quick break, and we'll be right back at you to end our show with one of our favorite podcasts, Shift Beers. So we just finished up talking about utopias because that is still something that we know that obviously not this year, but maybe is it next year?
Yeah, odd year.
Yeah,
every odd year.
Sam Adams, hit us up. You know that we love you. We know.
Yeah.
We know you know that we would love to share a bottle of utopias with the Truth Beer Pod family.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Hit us up. Yeah.
Hit us up. And then when the time is right, we'll have Morgan Freeman ask you again.
Absolutely. Marco, what do we have left?
Shift Beers.
This episode,
Shift Beers.
Shift Beers. Episode 79, which for some reason they were confused when they started recording. They were like 10 episodes behind. They were going, man, is this episode 69?
Now, one thing I want to say, Julie, I could be wrong in the numbers here, but I know that's their episode 79, and I know we're on episode 41.
Correct.
But when you count everything that we've actually published, I think we're in the 80s.
Yeah.
We're like 83, I think.
Something close to that, because we've had a handful of bonus episodes. We've been doing, I think we're on, if you count each of our 0.5s as an episode, we're on either 28 or 29.
0.5s.
0.5s, correct.
Yeah.
So, right. I mean, it's something to where...
Yeah.
Well, but Shift Beers, other than the random Patreon episode that they do here and there, which... Guys, I'm going to share the Patreon episodes with Marco. I'm not going to make him pay for that content, so you guys can just fuck off and deal with it.
Well, they were acting like you just show everybody.
Right. It's just Marco. It is literally just Marco. And I don't even give him my login. I like, turn my phone screen towards him so he can listen to if it's audio only or see if it's a video. He doesn't even have the information.
That's okay.
So.
We can take it, Julia. I did do it.
Dude, they're going to do an
impression
Netflix
about Gilbert Gottfried and Ass Cracks.
You did.
Yeah.
Funny
Which I think that slaps, by the way.
Funny thing about Ass Cracks, because we all know Chris out of Shift Beers has the biggest ass crack in the world.
Because the genie couldn't grant the wish.
Exactly. We have, when I say we, my Josh and I have a really hearty hand cream at home called No Crack. So my Josh is wondering if we use No Crack on Chris's extremely long crack, can we make it a normal sized ass crack?
I don't know. You'd be doing better than the genie if you could do that. The veil.
At Chris's house.
Chris's garage.
This was very interesting. Apparently, they all talked to each other. Everyone assumed that someone else was going to let Brian know that they were going to be recording. So no one let Brian know that they were going to be recording. So I took it upon myself to message Brian and say, hey, I listened to the episode.
Right.
It is extremely shitty that no one thought, hey, it doesn't matter if someone else already messaged Brian about this. I want to make sure he knows what we're doing. So I invited him to show up today to talk about this episode, since apparently they just don't care about Brian. We care about Brian.
We do.
Even if Shift Beers does not.
We do.
And he said that was awesome. He really appreciated it. He's not here, but he's a busy guy, so it's cool.
Yeah.
But anytime, Brian, that you want to be on our show and talk about your show, you are more than welcome. We have plenty of extra
Whether
mics.
you were on that week's that we're covering or not.
Hell yeah, yeah. Let's see. So this episode talked about the ducks at duck pin bowling.
Yeah, the ducks at duck pin bowling.
And I mean, just like at a park, if you can catch them, they're free. So if you
ducks are free.
If you go duck pin bowling and you're able to catch one of the ducks, it's yours. You
they're
can
free.
Take it. I don't know what you're going to do. I asked my Josh, like, hey, can I get a duck and like put it in the bathtub? And he said absolutely not. I don't know what the problem is.
Just put it in a water feature or something.
Yeah, that involves manual labor, and I'm not into
Just
that.
get one of those $7 kiddie pools, like out in front of Kroger.
Yeah, and you can just paddle around in that one. I need to shower. All right.
Yeah.
So,
do you think it would stay, or do you think it would like wander away?
I guess it depends on how young it is when you acquire. I'm going to say acquire. When you acquire this duck, if it's young enough, it might.
We don't have to dance around it. I mean,
if you
it's not
take a
illegal.
Duck,
it's not illegal.
It's not illegal. No, totally not. If it's an adult duck, it may decide to fly away and migrate south for the winter, and I don't know, unless you keep it indoors all the time, if there's anything you can do about that. So the ducks at duck pen, I don't know if they are fully mature to where they're going to want to migrate.
Gotcha.
Or if they're young enough to where if you take one and you get it home, it is yours and it will never leave your immediate property.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ship Beers, let us know. Because apparently Jangle knows.
Let's get him one.
Let's get him a duck.
Yeah.
I'm in.
You go to parks and stuff.
I do. I bet that I could find a duck. And I bet that I could grab it and just be back to work late for my lunch break because I do lunch walks. But I bet it would be a very good excuse to say, I'm sorry that I'm late. I got a duck, and I had to deliver it to Josh at the place that they don't work at.
I had to see a guy about a duck.
I had to see a guy about a duck. No one's going to have any idea of what to do about that. So they won't question it. I mean, if you went into your job and said, I'm sorry, but I had to see a guy about a duck, are they going to question you?
No, I mean, as a supervisor, I would just look at him.
And be like,
I just look at him, just very straight face, and I said,
I'm
"Okay,
glad
so you
came
clocked
back.
out. You clocked out when you left. Did you remember to clock back in when you got here? Yeah. Okay.
There you
All right,
go.
Good. Very good.
I hope that Chris is feeling better. He had a case of the flubby wobbles.
Flubby wobbles, gravy legs.
I'm hoping that.
A little bit of that going around where I have my full-time job. I had someone call out with the flubby wobbles, the gravy legs.
They had I'm not sure who
yesterday,
I forget who
Monday.
said it. Someone in Shift Beers decided they're going to coin a band name, Bout of the Scoots.
Bout of the Scoots.
Bout with the Scoots, my bad.
Another hashtag was Paint the Bowl.
It's, yeah. I've really got nothing more to say on that part of Shift Beers. But, Chris, we hope you're feeling better. And if there's a thing going around, hopefully...
Glad you stayed away.
Glad that you didn't show up here to BC's with potential
norovirus
issues.
Yeah, we don't need that.
They also touched on touch tune antics, which
sound
fucking hilarious, and I love it, and I would 100% do it. But at the same time, I'm glad that BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery does not have touch tunes because we would definitely be those assholes.
Okay.
That would do.
True story from BC's Bottle Lodge. Hold on a second.
Oh, no. Let's do it. And so while Margaret was pulling up his touch tune.
Okay.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, okay.
Excellent.
So BC's Bottle Lodge Mug Climber. I'm going to call him Justin. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Justin and I, we were... he came into Higher Gravity. That's where it was. He came into Higher Gravity. I was bartending.
Nice.
And he was telling me a story about one of these touch tune episodes that he decided to instigate where, so he's got the Touch Tunes app. Mm-hmm. And so he started playing the, the Muppets version of it is Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and he just did it over and over and over again.
That's amazing.
And then he made sure to do it when he was in the parking lot.
See, if I didn't think that, like Jason or Nick from Higher Gravity or any of the producers here at BC, so producer Ben, Brian, Ben, Caleb, and Mike, I would wreak havoc on their Touch Tunes presence in this place.
It would be all Ace of Base all the time. If I had
Aqua, Barbie Girl, come on.
I mean, Barbie Girl, very good.
That would be a good one. But they talked about a couple.
How about Blue?
Dabba dee dabba dow, dabba. Jeez,
Drive people insane.
I'm telling you, some of the ones I don't want to spoil it, but some of the ones they mentioned in the episode
this one time
were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Like I would have never thought about like I think like the one that I'm thinking of that they mentioned. Holy shit! Like because you can't stop it. Like you cannot. You just can't. You just can't. Also, they talked about how you can creep on the brewers at Esoteric when you go there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's something that that they approve of down at Esoteric, but it's a thing you can do. So be respectful of the brewers if you're there while they're working.
And somebody shouted down. Somebody shouted down to one of the brewers something that was kind of funny.
Yeah. It's all of the Shift Beers episodes are freaking fantastic to listen to, and this one's no different. I say they. Josh decided to order a shit ton of beers to be delivered from
I forgot.
the Vale Brewing.
That's
exactly what we're talking about. Exactly.
We're talking about everything
The
else.
main part of the
but
episode was this. So the episode was them trying these beers from Vale Brewing. Vale Brewing beers, you can have them shipped to Ohio. Not anything on their menu, but they have a certain number of releases that they have enough of that you can purchase, just like some other non-local breweries. And I want these beers. I actually priced out a cart for some of these beers, and it was not cheap. So we need you guys to support us monetarily so that I can get... And it's not even the beers. The beer prices are pretty average as far as what we're used to paying here. It's the shipping.
Oh.
Yeah. So I also looked at Burial Brewing, who is another non-local brewery that
Asheville.
has amazing beers. Right. Their flat rate shipping from UPS, $25. So depending on what you're ordering, that could be okay. But if you're only trying to order one or two, or 2 or 3 6-packs, 4-packs bottles, that's not inexpensive. So it sounds like for what Josh bought from the Vale, I'm just going to pretend that their shipping rates is similar to what I saw at Burial. It made sense. But if you're doing anything less than a bulk order, basically.
Right. Did you ever do Tavor?
I did. I did a couple Tavor boxes.
I did a few. Back when they
actually shipped to Ohio. Yeah.
I did a few.
Yeah. I loved the stuff that we got. I was always okay with it. For what they were doing, because you were getting single cans and not 4-packs, 6-packs. You could get 4 cans of whatever and make your own 6-pack, whatever. Prices weren't terrible for what they were doing.
No, I did a few boxes. I made sure to get my money's worth.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty expensive box for, the flat rate shipping. Of course, it took 2 weeks to get it.
Right.
Common carrier shipping is like, does it really take this long? I mean, but anyway, it was okay. I kind of got out of it because this was before they stopped shipping to Ohio.
Same. It just got expensive. And places started carrying more of these outside of Ohio breweries where I didn't feel like I needed to have a specialty place to get them. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So basically, same.
Let's see. Most of the episode was about the Vale beers, which were all amazing, but that's not...
And fresh.
They did
cover in. I know a lot of what they cover in the show we want to leave for you as intrigue and mystery when you listen to it. But one thing that I do want to say is that they were impressed with the freshness of the beers that they received. So if you are intrigued to get beer from the Veil and then listen to this podcast along with beers from the Veil, which maybe you might do, I don't know, a drinking game.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But the beers were fresh. They were very impressed with the freshness. They worry.
There's a ghost. BC's Bottle Lunch Montgomery.
Oh my God!
So
a bag of chips just fell. It like committed suicide right off the shelf.
No one has been near that shelf, like literally in probably over 20 minutes. I think it has been at least 20 minutes since the last person walked through the front door, past that shelf.
Yeah.
So
it was crazy. It decided life wasn't worth living, and then it just jumped off the shelf.
So we need one of the producers here at BC to
be a Ghostbuster,
like sage the place, or to
sage the pit. Yeah. So
anyway,
they were fresh.
The beers were very fresh,
and they were worried with being mailed that they were just going to get sort of the dregs of the the can offerings. But
these were within a
fresh.
week or two. Yeah, they were very fresh. A couple of the non-Veil brewing things that they talked about, which is really some of the most fun conversations that they have. We all know that Beth is freaking amazing. However, if she sleeps wrong, it breaks her, which you and I both know. That's just being old.
Oh,
so
that just happens.
Welcome to the club. I'm sorry. But yeah, unfortunately, you sneeze wrong somehow. I don't know how you sneeze wrong.
Yeah, you can.
Your neck is out for like weeks.
She can deadlift a certain certain amount of pounds, and then she goes to bed and
just happens to sleep,
wakes up and
can't move. Yeah.
Yeah.
She is, and hopefully this doesn't make her too weirded out, but just her knowing what she is doing for herself is helping me to do more for myself. Like, I'm getting back into my lunch walks. I need to start lifting again. I mean, I don't belong to a gym. I don't have access to a barbell, but I do have dumbbells. I do have
Do you even
plenty
lift,
of stuff.
bruh?
I'm getting back into it because I always loved weights. I mean, for just lifting has always been very therapeutic for me. And Beth, you're helping to kind of keep pushing me, unbeknownst to you until now, into trying to better myself. So thank you.
And when
for
you
that.
deadlift, you can like let out an angry.
You just scream as loud as you can.
I would do the opposite. I deadlift and I go, like Prince at the beginning of what is it like?
Oh my!
Look at you with a dead stare and just go.
Please don't. Oh shit. Oh my God. Okay. If I can, kind of on the same vein of sleeping wrong breaks you, there was a lot of pillow talk in this episode.
Yeah, there was.
And not that kind of pillow talk, but pillow talk where it comes to like folding and stacking.
Talking about old people.
This was like an entire episode of just, dude, we're old and this sucks.
Bro, did you get that pillow?
Did you get that memory foam one with the cooling gel top?
Gel?
But there is nothing.
It's got moisture wicking and it's got like a ventilation on the side. So like when you move your head, it takes in the air and then expels the air, and so like it keeps your head cool.
Both sides of the pillow are the cool sides of the pillow.
It doesn't matter.
Fuck yeah.
Both sides are cool.
Oh my God. Dude, getting old sucks, but at least we can laugh at
Look,
it.
I just want to let them know: $100 for a pillow, entry level.
Entry level. Oh God,
level.
yeah.
Entry level.
I will buy a pillow. And Josh is like, why the hell did you buy another pillow? We have plenty. And it's like, I don't like any of those. They don't work the way that I want them to
You
work.
don't spend a car note on a pillow, dude. It ain't good.
They feel great for the first 2 nights that you use them, and then they're stuck in whatever position that you sleep on them in, and it's like, well,
welcome
fuck.
to Shift Pillows.
Come on.
That should be their Patreon, where they're
Yes, where they compare pillows.
They compare pillows.
This
They have
one,
Josh folding one.
I was just gonna say we need to have which pillows are foldable, which pillows have the permanent crease. Oh my God, I
pillow
love
is
it and
perfect
hate it
for-
all at the same time
This
because I
pillow-
can relate to it.
This pillow is perfect for a tiny lady or a big man.
Going back to lifting and weights, Chris's daughter has the secret to doing pull-ups. So you definitely need to check out this episode. If nothing else, if you're trying to do a pull-up to get fit, whatever.
You do that
That
with pull-ups
tip.
too. You.
Guys, I can't. I can't. So they oh my God, they called the Veil. There was a phone number.
Yeah.
They called them.
They brought back a popular segment. It's, hey, call them. That's the name of this segment. They should get a imaging, some sounding
Oh
for
my
that, where they just go,
God, yes.
hey, call them.
Yes.
Well, don't. I mean,
Well,
you make up your own, but
Yeah. They talked to Ty, who's a bartender at the Veil, or at the tap room that handles the Veil.
and also used to be the host of that show where they would move the bus.
Yeah. The oh my God, I can picture it. No, he was also the one where they switched houses, wasn't it?
Yeah, Trading Spaces.
Trading Spaces. Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't move the bus on
True
that
story.
one.
I was on Trading Spaces.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Damn.
True story.
Nice. That's awesome. So when we finally set up our Patreon, Marco on Trading Spaces, that is going to be one of our first Patreon episodes.
I wasn't one
Check
of the
it out.
contestants.
Oh, well, never
they went-
mind.
They went to shop at a furniture store,
And they went to yours?
and they went to one of mine. And
Okay,
so
well,
I
never
was-
mind. Not
I was
interesting.
shown in the.
We're not, no, then we're not going to.
I got to meet Vern Yip.
Vern, I forgot about Vern.
Yeah.
Didn't they try to reboot that show
Wasn't
and then
that
it
a
still
Dr.
failed?
Dre song?
Yes, I think.
Forgot about Vern?
Probably. All I know is we don't talk about Bruno.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. Very good.
So Shift Beers, they called the Veil. They talked to Ty. Ty was very, very accommodating for the phone call. He was definitely not a Jeff from Lagunitas, which
Oh, Jeff,
is hilarious.
legendary.
When I was listening to that, I had written down, still not as good as Jeff from Lagunitas, and then they mentioned that exact same thing after the call. So I'm like, we're all on the same page. Jeff from Lagunitas is amazing. He needs to be an actual guest on the show somehow. Shift Beers and make that shit happen, and not
You know what
just
would be great
like,
is if
calling
Jeff from
them.
Lagunitas started a Cincinnati-based podcast.
Yes.
And then we
could
could
talk about
talk about it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We could talk about Jeff every single week.
Yep.
What else do I have? Wang Doodle. It slaps per the Shifty Beer. Well, the apple brandy Wang Doodle
Right.
slaps.
Right. We ready or you got something else?
The last thing is they shared a couple teasers for 2 new Patreon episodes that they're working on. As we talked about before, I only share my Patreon with you, but don't be an asshole and share your Patreon. But support Shift Beers, sign up for their Patreon. They don't
Yep.
have a ton of Patreon episodes, but what they've put out is 100% on brand and 100% fun. So definitely
Yep.
check that out. Check out Shift Beers everywhere. And Marco, let's go ahead and cover the best part of our Shift Beers recap.
Okay, Julia. So there's one locally based podcast that we thought it'd be a good idea if there was a drinking game, and it's Shift Beers. So what we do is we count all the audible burps. We give you a total burp count, and from that burp count off a average sip of, say, 2 ounces, we let you know how many ounces you would have had to drink if you followed along with the drinking game. And then we let you know off those number of ounces how many pints you would have had to dome while you were doing this drinking game.
Hell yeah. All right, so in this episode of Shift Beers, episode 79, where they drank the Veil Brewing beers, they had a total of 46 burps.
Ooh.
A little less than what I
Okay.
was expecting, but they were also down a member. That was a total of 92 ounces of liquid,
Okay.
which is 5.75 pints
All right.
of beer in the
Hour,
roughly
20.
hour 15 hour 20-minute podcast. So
That's
depending on
respectable.
depending on what you're drinking, even if you're drinking slow pour rally caps through all of that,
That's
you're still going to feel it. You're
You're
still going to be
working.
having a good time.
You're
Yeah.
working.
Hell yeah.
You better work.
You better work, bitch. All right, and with Brittany chiming in for that, was there anything else that we had to talk about in this episode of Truth, Beer, and Consequences?
No, I just I think like when we go to end the show, we want to remind everybody how to get in touch with us. Remind everybody that we appreciate their listenership.
Yeah.
Tell your friends. That's how the show grows. And if they want to support us, if they want to get in contact with us, Julia, give them the wrap up.
We are pretty much at Truth Beer Pod everywhere, all the big social media platforms. We're trying to figure out TikTok. There is a Truth Beer Pod TikTok account, but my God, I don't know what to do with it. So it will be coming soon. Follow us, like, share, subscribe, review, all that good stuff on all your favorite podcatchers. truthbeerpod@gmail.com if you would like to send us an email. And truthbeerpod.com if you would like to monetarily donate to the show. There is a big blue support us link. If there are any complaints about the show, at Raging Hop on Twitter. They will go through all of the complaints that they get. They'll consolidate the best and the worst. They will let us know. We don't have any for this week, but check out last week's episode because we did have a couple complaints that we talked about. And last but not least, I want to shout out the New Brew Report. They have supported us. Even though they're a Canadian podcast, they test craft beers, mostly from Canada, a lot of international stuff. They love to talk about the sports ball and the sports puck, mostly hockey. They are amazing people. So if you have any interest in hockey and just worldwide craft beer, please check out the New Brew Report. They love us. We love them. It has been one of the best out of Cincinnati friendships that we've been able to form, and we can't wait to meet them. I can't wait. We can't wait. Good God, to meet them.
There we go.
Hopefully soon. Maybe come Oktoberfest. I give up.
Oktoberfest season. It'll be amazing.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
take off from all my jobs to get out there with the.
Thank you, Marco.
With everybody from the Cincinnati Craft Beer podcast world and with the New Brew Report.
And special shout out to an off-site producer that we've had for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Producer Jason. He has been amazing in letting Marco and I know if there's anything that we're doing or saying incorrectly, such as correcting us on North Side. North Side is not the north side of anywhere in Cincinnati. It is just the name of a community on the west side. Thank you, Jason. And also, he corrected our Newbert complaint from last week about Labatt's. Apparently, Canadians don't call them Labatt's; they call them Blues. So,
okay.
News to me.
News to me.
But yeah, so offsite.
I forgot to grab some. Next week.
Next week. I actually saw some at the Crochet, and I'm like, oh, Marcus said he was going to get them, so I didn't pick up any.
Yeah, I'll get some.
So
I've been busy.
Thank you, offsite producer Jason. Really appreciate your listenership and your correcting of us when we misspeak. I mean, we want to make sure we're as accurate, mostly, as possible.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is now thanks to you. So we'll add you to the payroll once we actually have a payroll to add people to.
Right, exactly. Until then, you get paid the same way we do.
Hell
which is,
yeah. I'll continue to buy beer at your location.
In likes and shares.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. It's we just, continue to pay for our beer.
There you go. So,
Julia, what you doing next week?
I'm going to listen to as many Cincinnati Craft Beer podcasts as are released between now and, say, 10 p.m. on Monday night. And then I'm going to show up here at BC's Bottle Lodge Montgomery to talk about them with you.
I'm going to do the same.
Excellent.
Cheers, Julia.
Cheers, Marco. Have an absolutely fantastic week, everyone. And we will see you soon.